Reflection in line with the Four Noble Truths. Reflection in line with the Noble Truths, or reflection used to solve problems, is informally called the method of ending suffering. It is classed as a key form of reflection because it is possible to expand it so that it encompasses all other forms of wise reflection. This short passage encapsulates this kind of reflection. A monk attends wisely thus. This is suffering. He attends wisely. This is the origin of suffering. He attends wisely. This is the cessation of suffering. He attends wisely. This is the way leading to the cessation of suffering. When he attends wisely in this way, three fetters are abandoned in him: personality, view, doubt, and adherence to rules and practices. This kind of reflection has two general attributes. 1. It is in line with cause and effect. The investigation begins with results and traces back to causes, followed by a subsequent attending to and solving things at their source. It is divided into two pairs. Pair number 1, suffering, dukkha, is the result. It is the problem. It is an unsatisfactory situation. The origin of suffering, samudaya, is the cause. It is the source of the problem. It is the agent which must be eliminated or attended to in order to be released from the suffering. Pair number 2, cessation, nirodha, is the result. It is the end of the problem. It is the goal to be reached. The path, magga, is the cause. It is the method. It is the way of practice for dealing with the cause of problems and for reaching the goal, the end of suffering. 2. It is relevant, to the point, straightforward, and direct. It focuses on those things that one must practice and engage with in order to solve life's predicaments. It does not digress into matters of indulgence and excess, i.e. to thoughts seeking to gratify craving, conceit, and fixed opinions, which are irrelevant, which cannot be used to solve problems. As mentioned earlier, this fourth kind of reflection corresponds with or is connected to the third kind, the reflection in accord with universal characteristics. To begin with, when one encounters a problem and experiences suffering, one is able to come to an acceptance of this situation in accord with stage number 1 of the third kind of reflection above. Then, when one is prepared to apply wisdom in order to solve the problem in accord with stage number 2 of the third kind of reflection above, one gradually reflects on the details and particulars described in this fourth kind of reflection. The principle or essence of reflection in line with the Noble Truths is to begin with an acknowledgement and clear understanding of a problem or of suffering. From here one searches for the source of this problem in order to attend to it. At the same time, one clearly establishes one's goal. One knows the goal, one knows whether it is accessible or not, and one knows how to reach it. Finally, one thinks of ways to eliminate the source of the problem, leading to the realization of one's determined goal. In the context of this kind of reflection, it is necessary to be aware of the responsibilities or duties vis-a-vis each of the Four Noble Truths. to understand the gist of this matter, a summary of the Four Noble Truths along with the corresponding stages of practice is presented below. Stage 1. Suffering, dukkha, problems, affliction, frustration, stress, oppression, and deficiencies encountered by people in their lives. In the most comprehensive sense, this refers to the state in which conditioned phenomena, the mind and body, the five aggregates, or the entire world is subject to the laws of nature. They are impermanent and inconstant. They are under pressure by and dependent upon conditioning factors. They do not possess a self which can be controlled and dominated by anyone. Consequently, they conflict, desire and attachment lead to misery and dissatisfaction. Our sole responsibility in the face of suffering is to recognize and understand it, to clearly understand its nature and the extent of the problems. This is similar to a doctor who examines a diagnosis and diagnoses an illness. This responsibility is referred to as thorough knowledge, parinya. Our responsibility is not to brood over or worry about these problems, or to resent the suffering and try to get rid of it, for thinking in this way only increases it. It is fine to desire the end of suffering, but suffering cannot be dispelled by desire. It can only be dispelled by understanding it and by eliminating its causes. Hankering to end suffering only causes further harm. Besides acknowledging suffering, one also accepts the natural course of things as described in stage number 1 of the third kind of reflection above. When one has gained a thorough understanding of suffering or of problems, then one's duties in the context of this stage are complete. One is prepared to move on to the second stage. Stage 2, the cause of suffering, samudaya. The origin of problems, the various conditioning factors that come together and conflict with one another, leading to diverse forms of stress, pressure, affliction, discomfort, and deficiency. One needs to discover these causes and then perform the responsibility of pahana, elimination or abandonment. The Buddha described the principal agents that go hand in hand with human suffering. Both the actor standing at the front of the stage, craving tanha, and the entire cast, or the complete process, that is, the chain of conditioning factors, beginning with ignorance, avidya, outlined in the teaching of dependent origination. When one experiences suffering or encounters a specific problem, one needs to look for the related causes and conditions, in accord with the first kind of reflection above, the investigation of causes and conditions. If the problem stems from conditioning factors within oneself, one reflects on the principal agents, craving, or all factors of dependent origination, along with accompanying conditions specific to that situation. When one has investigated, analyzed, and discovered the root of the problem, which must be eliminated or abandoned, one's reflections in the context of this second stage are complete. Stage 3. Cessation, Nirodha. The cessation of suffering, the release from suffering, the end of all problems, this is the goal, in respect to which our responsibility is satya kiriya, to realize, actualize, accomplish, or reach it. This stage requires the following reflections. What is the desired goal? What is the purpose of spiritual practice? Where am I going in this practice? Is this goal realistic? How can it be achieved? What are the principles having to do with reaching this goal? What are the subsidiary goals, or the gradual sequence of lesser goals along the path to reaching the main goal? Stage 4, Path Magga. The way leading to the cessation of suffering, the ways of practice for bringing suffering to an end, the methods for solving problems. This refers to those methods and details of practice required for eliminating the cause of problems and for reaching the desired goal. Our responsibility in this stage is bhavana, cultivation, practice, application. In regard to contemplation, the necessary task is to determine those measures, procedures, and tactics required for successfully dealing with the source of problems, which are in harmony with the desired goal. Reflection on goals and principles. This method refers to reflecting on and understanding the relationship between goals, atta, and principles, dhamma. This is a very important reflection when one undertakes spiritual practice or follows a specific teaching, preventing one's actions from being erratic, aimless, or gullible. The term Dhamma here means principle or basis. It refers to principles of truth, of virtue, and of practice, and it includes teachings which should be applied and followed correctly. Atta is defined as meaning, objective, goal, desired benefit, or desired essence. In Dhamma practice, or when following any sort of principle, it is necessary to understand the meaning or purpose of that activity. One should ask the questions: why was this principle, Dhamma, established? Where does it lead to, both in terms of the final goal and in terms of intermediate targets, which are connected to other principles? A correct understanding of principles and objectives leads to the right practice, referred to as Dhamma Nu Dhamma Pati Pati, which is traditionally translated as to practice the Dhamma in a way appropriate to the Dhamma. It can also be translated as practicing minor principles of Dhamma consistent with major principles of Dhamma. Very simply, this means practicing the Dhamma correctly, acting in such a way that subsidiary factors of practice are in harmony with and nourish key principles of practice leading to the desired goal. Practicing the Dhamma correctly, Dhamma Nu Dhamma Pati Pati, as described above, is vital. One can say that it is the criterion determining whether Dhamma practice or a specific activity will succeed or reach its goal or not. If one practices the Dhamma incorrectly, one's practice will be defective, fruitless, and naive. It may even have the opposite desired effect and cause harm. Every principle, Dhamma, has an objective and goal, atta. Whatever one engages in, one must be able to answer the question, what am I doing this for? There is a great emphasis on this form of reflection in Dhamma practice, both as an attribute of individuals, for example, in the 7 qualities of a virtuous person, Saparisa Dhamma, and the 4 kinds of analytic insight, Pati Sambhida, and as part of a gradual sequence of practice. For example, in the 4 virtues conducive to growth in wisdom, Panya Buddhi Dhamma, and in the ways of practice described below. Following are some passages from the Pali Canon on this subject. Monks. How is a monk Dhamma knower? Dhamma Nu. Here a monk in this Dhamma and Vinaya knows the Dhamma, that is, the discourses, stanzas, expositions, verses, exclamations, sayings, birth stories, marvels, and answers to questions. How is a monk meaning knower, Atanu. Here a monk knows the meaning of various teachings thus. This is the meaning of this teaching, this is the meaning of that teaching. Monks. How is a person one of great knowledge, Bahu Sutta, and one who understands by way of learning, Sutta? Some people have learned much in respect to the discourses, stanzas, expositions, verses, exclamations, sayings, birth stories, marvels, and answers to questions. They thoroughly understand the essence and principles of that large body of learning. They are ones who practice the Dhamma correctly. Dhamma nu Dhamma pati pati. In this way, a person is called one of great knowledge and one who understands by learning. Monks. The Dhamma that I have taught is extensive, that is, the discourses, stanzas, expositions, verses, exclamations, sayings, birth stories, marvels, and answers to questions. If a monk thoroughly understands the meaning and principle of even one verse consisting of 4 lines, and is one who practices the Dhamma correctly, Dhamma nu Dhamma pati pati, he is worthy to be called one of great knowledge, a champion of the Dhamma. Monks, these 5 things make for the dissolution, for the disappearance of the true Dhamma. The monks do not listen to the Dhamma respectfully, they do not study the Dhamma respectfully, they do not recollect the Dhamma respectfully, they do not reflect respectfully on the meaning to paparika of that Dhamma they have memorized. When they understand the meaning and principle, they do not practice the Dhamma in a way appropriate to the Dhamma. Dhamma nu Dhamma pati pati. Monks, these 5 things make for the stability, for the non-dissolution, for the non-disappearance of the true Dhamma. The monks listen to the Dhamma respectfully, they study the Dhamma respectfully, they recollect the Dhamma respectfully, they reflect respectfully on the meaning of that Dhamma they have memorized. When they understand the meaning and principle, they practice the Dhamma in a way appropriate to the Dhamma. The sequence of principles described in the previous quotation can be outlined as follows. To listen to and study the Dhamma, to memorize the Dhamma, to reflect on its meaning, to practice the Dhamma in a way appropriate to the Dhamma. This same sequence is found in many other suttas and can thus be considered an important principle of Buddhist training and practice. Let us compare this teaching with the principle of wisdom development, or the 4 factors making for stream entry. Monks, these 4 things are conducive to the growth of wisdom, that is, association with superior persons, hearing the true Dhamma, wise reflection, and practice in accord with the Dhamma. These 2 teachings are essentially the same. Note, however, that in the former teaching, the factor of wise reflection, yoniso manasikara, is replaced by the term reflection on the meaning, atu paparika. The use of the term atu paparika here seems to be narrowing the definition of yoniso manasikara in this circumstance. By focusing primarily on this 5th kind of reflection being discussed in this section, that is, when one understands the relationship between principles, Dhamma, and objectives, Atta, one reaches the next step of proper application of the teachings, Dhamma nu Dhamma pati pati. Many sutta passages clarify the relationship between principles and objectives. For example, monks, Dhamma and not Dhamma, Dhamma are to be understood. Likewise, essence and non-essence, Anatta. When Dhamma and not Dhamma, essence and non-essence are understood, one should practice according to Dhamma and essence. What is not Dhamma? What is Dhamma? What is non-essence? What is essence? wrong view, wrong thought, wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong mindfulness, wrong concentration, wrong knowledge, wrong liberation is not Dhamma. Right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, right knowledge, right liberation is Dhamma. Various evil, unwholesome states arising with wrong view, wrong thought, wrong speech, wrong action, wrong livelihood, wrong effort, wrong mindfulness, wrong concentration, wrong knowledge, wrong liberation as condition are the non-essence. Various wholesome states that come to completion by right effort, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, right knowledge, right liberation are the essence. The benefit of the discipline, Vinaya, is restraint, Samvara. The benefit of restraint is non-remorse. The benefit of non-remorse is joy. The benefit of joy is delight. The benefit of delight is serenity. The benefit of serenity is happiness. The benefit of happiness is concentration. The benefit of concentration is knowledge and vision according to reality. The benefit of knowledge and vision according to reality is disenchantment. The benefit of disenchantment is dispassion. The benefit of dispassion is deliverance. The benefit of deliverance is knowledge and vision of deliverance. The benefit of knowledge and vision of deliverance is final absolute nibbana, anupada parinibbana. Wholesome, virtuous conduct has non-remorse as its benefit and reward. Non-remorse has joy as its benefit and reward. Joy has delight as its benefit and reward. Delight has serenity as its benefit and reward. Serenity has happiness as its benefit and reward. Happiness has concentration as its benefit and reward. Concentration has knowledge and vision according to reality as its benefit and reward. Knowledge and vision according to reality has disenchantment as its benefit and reward. Disenchantment has dispassion as its benefit and reward. Dispassion has deliverance as its benefit and reward. Deliverance has knowledge and vision of deliverance as its benefit and reward. Thus amongst things flow into other things. Things bring other things to fulfillment. For the sake of going from what is not the goal to what is the goal. The purpose of seeing rightly is disenchantment. The purpose of disenchantment is dispassion. The purpose of dispassion is deliverance. The purpose of deliverance is nibbana. Purity of virtue is for the sake of purity of mind. Purity of mind is for the sake of purity of view. Purity of view is for the sake of purity of overcoming doubt. Purity of overcoming doubt is for the sake of purity of the knowledge and vision regarding path and not path. Purity of the knowledge and vision regarding path and not path is for the sake of purity of the knowledge and vision of the way of practice. Purity of the knowledge and vision of the way of practice is for the sake of purity of knowledge and vision. Purity of knowledge and vision is for the sake of final absolute nibbana. The following sutta passages clarify the meaning of the terms atta and dhamma nu dhammapatipati. The doing of good, atta, by one who does not recognize what is good, is not conducive to happiness. A fool squanders the good like a monkey watching over an orchard. One should investigate the source of things in order to clearly understand their essence, atta. A person who practices the Dhamma correctly is difficult to find in the world. Wandering ascetic. Friend Sariputta, what is difficult to do in this Dhamma and discipline? Venerable Sariputta, going forth, friend, is difficult to do in this Dhamma and discipline. What, friend, is difficult to do by one who has gone forth? To find delight, friend, is difficult to do by one who has gone forth. What, friend, is difficult to do by one who has found delight? To practice in accord with the Dhamma, friend, is difficult to do by one who has found delight. But, friend, if a bhikkhu practices in accord with the Dhamma, would it take him long to become an arahant? Not long, friend. This reflection and understanding of goals and principles is worthy of constant attention. Indeed, the middleness Majjhima of the middle way is determined by an understanding and awareness of the true goal of practice. Moreover, each subdivision or factor of the middle way has specific objectives, as well as a common goal, which need to be borne in mind and understood in order to practice them correctly. For these factors to be well integrated with one another and for them to lead gradually to the intended goal. In other words, a knowledge and understanding of the objectives, benefits and limitations of specific spiritual factors determines the correctness and evenness of one's practice, resulting in Dhammanudhamma Patipatti, to practice the Dhamma in a way appropriate to the Dhamma. From a perspective of the ultimate good, Paramattha, not from the perspective of mundane welfare, Dita Dhammikata, heavenly welfare, Samparayikata, others' welfare, Paratta, or social welfare, virtuous conduct, Sila, concentration, Samadhi, and wisdom, Panya, share the same final goal of Nibbana. From a more limited perspective, each of these three factors has its own perimeter and sphere of activity, which must be linked with the function of the others, enabling the attainment of the final goal. By themselves, these factors cannot lead to ultimate success. At the same time, each one of these factors is essential and indispensable. Thus, the maxim virtuous conduct leads to concentration, concentration leads to wisdom, wisdom leads to liberation. If one practices moral conduct without a clear direction, it may become an adherence to rules and practice and religious practices, sila bhatta paramasa, feeding into the extreme of self-mortification, attakila matanu yoga. If one develops concentration without reflecting on its true purpose, one may get caught up in psychic powers, strengthening wrong view, or various forms of base arts, tira, chana, vidya. If one develops wisdom that is not conducive to liberation, one deviates from the middle way, and does not reach the goal of Buddhism. One may get lost along the path or become stuck in some form of wrong view. For this reason, it is possible for a Dhamma practitioner to practice incorrectly and go astray at every stage of practice. For example, in relation to the beginning stage of practice of virtuous conduct, there exists the general tenet that a strict and pure observance of moral precepts and rules is an essential quality of a Dhamma practitioner. He or she must constantly give great import to moral conduct. Nevertheless, despite a strict observance to morality, if one lacks an awareness of the relationship between principles, Dhamma, and goals, Atta, if one forgets the true purpose and objective of moral conduct, as well as the parameters, benefits, and place in relation to other factors, one may be remiss in one's practice at any time. A person may mistakenly consider morality as inherently complete, as something existing in isolation, not as part of a larger spiritual process. Alternatively, a lack of awareness about the true purpose and objective of moral conduct may lead people to attach to various conventions, to simply follow traditional ways of behaving, without understanding the reasons for such behavior. They do not see that sila is a tool for training one's self. Some people unconsciously entertain the belief that moral strictness or Puritanism is good and complete in itself. Goodness and spiritual accomplishment is achieved simply by adhering to your code of ethics. Morality thus becomes an end in itself rather than a stage of practice leading to a higher goal. Other people indulge in the belief that the stricter or more austere one practices, the better. For such people, an awareness of the true purpose of moral conduct is completely absent. They create increasingly severe and austere forms of practice. Those who witness such practices in others and who lack wise reflection will equally be led astray. Their faith will increase in proportion to the extreme austerities they see in others. This kind of belief is one cause for peculiar forms of ascetic practices, which the Buddha referred to as savage practices of naked ascetics. Such practices are examples of an adherence to rules and practices, sila bhatta paramasa, and fall under the extreme of self-mortification, atthakila mata nu yoga. Examples of such practices include eating only fermented vegetables, eating grass, eating only fallen fruit, wearing discarded cloth, wearing grass garments, pulling out the head hair and beard, and lying on a bed of thorns. Indeed, there exist many more extreme forms of practice as those just mentioned. People who understand the true objective of moral conduct will also give precedence to moral strictness and ethical codes. They will reflect on the relationship of morality to other aspects of spiritual practice. They are able to discriminate by reflecting in the following ways. These are universal principles of morality. While these are supplementary observances and practices, this person should strictly observe this precept for this reason. This precept should be compulsory for everyone equally, for this reason or for this desired result. This practice should be voluntary because of these differences between individual people. This person practices strictly and has attained success, while this other person practices strictly but has not succeeded. Why is this so? This person does not practice very strictly but has made more progress than another person who practices strictly. What are the reasons for this? This kind of reflection on principles and goals may be less important when one has a virtuous friend and teacher nearby. In such a circumstance, one relies in large part on faith in the teacher's wisdom and a trust that one's practice will gradually progress. If the teacher is truly wise and skilled, he or she will be able to explain the principles and objectives at each stage of practice.